Welcome everybody to our Expedia Cruises virtual travel talk. This travel talk is being hosted by the 6th Edmonton Expedia Cruise Center's offices. My name is Randy Twaniak. I'm owner of the West End location and hosting this presentation on behalf of all the centers. It's October 27th today, and winter has arrived early this year. And based on the timing, it looks like it's going to be a long one. And definitely, I know I'm not ready for it, nor do I want to spend the entire winter at home. Travel outside of Canada is still going to have some challenges this winter, and because of that, we wanted to bring you this travel talk on alternatives for getting away from the -30 temperatures and snow of Alberta. Our Expedia Cruises offices are open and here for you. And just a reminder, we sell more than cruises. We can help arrange air, land, sea vacations, and even vacations in Canada, which we'll be talking about today. For those who on the call who have not attended a Zoom meeting, everybody is muted right now just because of the size of the group. You do have control over whether or not you want your video on or off. And if you have questions, just use the chat feature and we'll answer the chat at the end of the presentation. Now I'd like to introduce today's special guest, Darcy Gardens, Director of Business Development for Anderson Vacations. Darcy will be talking about where we can help you escape to warmer Canadian climates this winter. Welcome, Darcy.
Thanks, Randy. It's great to be here. Shall I start my screen sharing?
Definitely.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I will do that. How's that?
Perfect.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you, Randy, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk about one of my favorite places in the whole wide world, because this is where I live here on Vancouver Island. And as Randy mentioned, we're going to talk about warm places for this winter, primarily Vancouver Island. We're right next door, and I'm super excited to say that I was actually in Edmonton. I know most of you are in Edmonton, and I was there last week, and it had been a long time since I was in Edmonton. I'm an Alberta girl from years ago, and I also lived in Winnipeg for about 25 years. And after several cold winters, I decided to come out here to Vancouver Island. And this is the biggest risk about coming to the island in the wintertime, is that it could change your life forever, because that's what it did for us. We ended up packing up and moving out to Vancouver Island. So we're really happy to be here. And I'm going to share some things with you today that you can experience on the island. Now, it's primarily going to be about Vancouver Island, and the experiences I'm talking about will relate to both summer and winter. I know we're going into winter, so as we go along, this is a PowerPoint presentation I use a lot. So you might see an experience that isn't necessarily geared towards a winter stay, but maybe for some of you who aren't, who don't do a winter stay this winter, it might just get you excited about coming back in the spring or summertime as well. So let's get started. So as Randy said, my name is Darcy Gardens, and I'm the Director of Business Development for Anderson Vacations. I've been in the travel business for over 30 years, and I'm the best, I have the best job in the world. I'm so blessed to travel Canada on a regular basis. I've traveled from coast to coast to coast. I've been all over the north of Canada as well, the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and even up to Nunavut. So I know how beautiful Canada is. I know about lots of cold places too. Okay, so this little journey of Vancouver Island, I think that the heart to every destination really is through the food and experiences. So it's a bit of a culinary journey with a few other things thrown in. And it's really just to inspire you to get out there and experience things that maybe you haven't done before in Canada or on Vancouver Island if you haven't been here. Oops, I got something going on here with my, there we go. So Vancouver Island is actually 460 kilometers long and about 100 kilometers wide. And there is a ton of stuff to do on this island. It's Canada's 11th largest island. And of course, Victoria, down at the very bottom in the south, is the capital city. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Victoria. There's actually 6 regions on this island. So we're not going to go over all the regions. We're just going to talk about the southern region and a little bit up into the central area, where primarily most of the things are to do. If you want to go up into the north part of the island, that's really about nature and grizzly bears and fishing and things like that. But we're going to focus really from where you see Nanaimo, maybe a little bit north of that to Parksville, from there down south to Victoria. On the island, you can do wine tastings, balsamic vinegar tastings. There's over 1,000 caves to explore on the island. Most people didn't know that. Whale watching, wildlife viewing, golfing, lots of golf courses on the island as well, and also wonderful farmers markets on Vancouver Island. It's really easy access to get from, of course, Vancouver. There's ferry service like crazy into Victoria. There's actually 2 ferries into Nanaimo, where I am, which is central Vancouver Island. And so you can take the ferry over. And I like to think that the ferry is really actually part of the experience. This last year, prior to COVID, I was really fortunate to be going back and forth on the ferry about once a week. And I saw whales numerous times. So yes, you can do a whale watching experience where you go searching for them, but they actually came to us a few times. And we even saw a large pod of dolphins as we were passing across on the ferry. It's one of my husband's favorite things to do, is just get on the ferry and relax and enjoy the ride. We also have access from the US. Now, of course, it's closed right now, but we do have people coming up from there. Now, it's really important to note that because I left Seattle in there just as a reminder that because the border's not open right now, it's a really great time for us to be exploring our own backyard because it's a lot less busy right now. There are quite a few mainlanders coming over to the island, and Vancouver Island people are also exploring the island. So when I talk about long stays on Vancouver Island, I must mention to you that some of the availability is getting a little bit limited. We do have some space. In some places like Parksville, not as long of durations, but we still have long stays in Victoria and Souk. Now, Victoria, of course, is the most popular for long stays because it's a great walkable city and you don't need to have a car there. You can rent a car, for a day or 2 here and there to do some exploring of the island. And I highly recommend that. Victoria is great because you can walk to all the markets, to all the attractions, and it's just a great place to get your steps in every day. Souk is about 45 minutes away from Victoria. And it's an area that if you're looking for really disconnecting, like forgetting about city life, connecting with nature, fantastic sea kayaking. You can go out in a sea kayak and actually go crabbing there. Wonderful, wonderful restaurants and things. But with Souk, what I recommend is renting a small car. You don't need anything big from here. You can actually take it from the car rental from Souk to Port Renfrew and do some incredible hiking out there and visit Hatley Castle. There's lots of little things to see along the way. And then Parksville is actually up south. It's south of Victoria. It's about 2 hours. And this is where my parents live, actually. And that was the main reason that brought me to the island a few years back when I fell in love with it. And the same thing happened for them. They were in Red Deer. They'd lived in Red Deer for about 15 years, and they came out to the island for a fall getaway, and they never looked back. They ended up staying out here. So these are the 3 options that we have for long stay programs on the island. But if there's another destination on the island you're interested in, you can reach out to your Expedia Cruises professional and they can work with us to help you find the best possible destination for what you're interested in. What is it that makes you tick, and what do you want to do? Now, if you look at the photographs on here, the top left-hand corner, of course, is Victoria, and it's clearly in the spring and summer, bright and colorful. The bottom left photograph is actually the beach in Parksville. And that's what I love about Parksville. It'll be like you're almost living there because it's just a little community that's very safe with fabulous beaches that you can walk in the morning when the tide goes out. And then the little small right-hand picture is of Souk. And as I mentioned, the nature, wildlife, and so on. These are actually shots that were taken by my VP of my company on the island. And I add them because it really gives you a true feeling of the mystical, magical feeling that you have on Vancouver Island. It really is about nature and wide open spaces. So if you're concerned about safety, you don't really need to be on the island. We have had very few COVID cases. The people here are great about following the rules. Randy and I were talking about that before we came on air, that people are really good about wearing masks. It is not mandatory, but people are really respectful here. And it is about exploring the island and getting outside. And even when it's raining, it is a beautiful place to be. All you need is a rain jacket and an umbrella, and you forget about the rain because it's so fresh and beautiful. Victoria is such a great city. It is a diverse historical, architectural, and cultural mix, that's for sure. It's an older city, of course, and it's the capital city of BC. So there's lots of history and lots of things to see and do here. If you love to have great food, the restaurant scene here is amazing. I love tapas, and there's so many fabulous tapas places here. Again, the best walking city. You don't really need a car unless you want to leave Victoria to explore. Even if you want to go to Butchart Gardens, we can arrange for transfers to get you out there. And when you arrive in Victoria, we have a transfer service that'll take you from the Victoria Airport right to downtown. So there's no real need for a car here. There's Fisherman's Wharf here. You can walk around a lovely little colorful community that's right on the water. There's some fabulous comedy clubs. There's even a jazz club that I love called Herman's that's fabulous. It's been around forever. So there's lots of things to do. And the restaurants are at 50% capacity. And because the weather's so great, there's a lot of outdoor dining, even in the wintertime. They are having these sort of pop-up patios outside. So it's not quite so cold, and they do have the heaters as well. Now, if you're staying in Victoria or any of these locations, Butchart Gardens is a must do. Now, I mentioned in the beginning that we're going to talk about the culinary side of things because I think the culinary side pulls you into the experience. So during the spring and summer, they actually have gourmet picnic baskets at Butchart Gardens. They don't have those in the wintertime, but there are 4 seasons you can enjoy the gardens, and every single season is completely different and spectacular in their own way. And so for the winter time, they do have the magic of Christmas. And all of these programs are still running. However, there are protocol that you must follow. You must call ahead or go online and purchase tickets to most of the things that are local attractions. So that's really important to be aware of. You can't just necessarily show up at any of these locations. Now, let's talk a little bit, of course, about the Fairmont Empress Hotel. Most of our guests don't stay at this hotel for long stays because it's a little bit more expensive, and we use mostly places with kitchenettes or full kitchens. But it's such an iconic attraction for Vancouver Island and Victoria. I love going here for the high tea, and you can go here any time of year. They make their own scones, and they actually have their own bees on the rooftop. So it's really quite special, and one of the best high teas I've ever been to. It is truly like stepping back in time. There's a fabulous lounge in here as well. Now, I love the Empress Hotel because there's so many stories behind it, and I do like to share a couple of the stories. If you see this photograph, you can see the vines on the outside of the building, and those vines have been there forever, and they're iconic. A couple of years ago, the hotel decided that they would take those vines down and clean the building. Now, the locals in Victoria were not very happy about that because it is such an iconic look to the hotel. It does change the whole look and feel of the hotel. But they did go ahead and take the vines down. And when they took them down, you won't believe what they found. They found all kinds of old jewelry in the vines. So they were scratching their heads, like, what could that possibly be? So they did a little further investigating, and it turns out that over the span of years and years and years, a multi-generational family of raccoons was living in these vines. And so what happened was, long ago, before air conditioning was installed in the hotel, there's a lovely ocean breeze. And so guests would open the windows. And when they would go out for a nice evening meal or something like that, they would come back and their jewelry was missing from the room. And it turns out that these little monkey raccoons were sneaking into the rooms and stealing people's jewelry. So now the hotel's been tasked with the job of finding the owners to the jewelry. So and I love that story because it really is one of those things that when you're going to a city like Victoria, there's so much history and there's so much storytelling to be had. So, and unfortunately, several employees were actually let go and accused of theft over the years. So they owe a few people some apologies. Another great place to go in Victoria for tea is actually called Abkhazi Gardens. And I bet you most of you have never heard of this place because I hadn't heard of it. It's the best kept secret. You will drive right by this place at least twice while you're looking for it. So unlike the traditional high tea at the Fairmont Empress Hotel, this is a wonderful little garden. And even in the fall and winter, it's still quite lovely. As you get into the winter time, it's not as colorful, of course, but they have a Moroccan tea experience. And I'm always looking for experiences that are different that we can do that we can, that we can't do at home. So a lot of actually all of these photos and a lot of the other photos in my presentation are actually pictures that I've taken myself. And here, as you can see, this tea experience truly is Moroccan. You have your dried olives, a lamb tagine, a really incredible dining experience. And there's this magical love story of a prince and a local Victoria woman. I won't spoil it for you, but when you go to Abkhazi, you make sure you ask for the story of these gardens. It's not all about tea. It's got to be about beer as well. And Victoria is the most walkable city in Canada and one of the best places for craft beer. You can go from pub to pub to pub and you don't have to drive because they're all walkable. They even have a bike there, like a large bike that'll seat, I think it's 10 people, and you can go from pub to pub pedaling on the bike and enjoy these wonderful craft beers. Anything from peanut butter beer, raspberry, peach, all different kinds. And again, completely walkable, so it's fantastic. There's even a brew ale, I think it's called the Ale Trail, just leaving out of Victoria. The heart to every city is through my stomach, and I think through many people's stomachs. A foodie tour is a great way to explore a city. And I always say, when you're getting to a city, do it the first day. Don't wait till later on in the experience, because you'll find out about restaurants and bakeries and patisseries that you can go to over and over throughout your stay. So even if you're doing a long stay in Victoria, I still say do this at the beginning because you'll learn so much. One of my favorite bakeries on the entire island is in Victoria. And if you do this tour, you stop at the bakery and you get to meet the baker who's from Italy, and he talks about his mama's recipes, and it's just a really special, magical experience. There's some that you can taste wine and beer, and it's a walking tour, so you get to explore the heart of downtown Victoria as well. When you leave Victoria and you head up towards Souk, there's some really unique experiences. And I mentioned earlier, Souk is really about nature and wildlife. And they did talk about sea kayaking. So sea kayaking, you normally would expect to use a paddle, but here they have sea kayaking where you can pedal with your feet. So it's a very unique experience. My dad is 73 years old, and my dad can do this sea kayaking experience. So I think just about anybody can do it. And in the Souk area, you can also do Dakini Tidal Wild, which is a seaweed tasting experience. So you walk along the coast with this lovely lady, and she will explain all the seaweeds that you're looking at. And not only are they used for bath products and beauty products, but actually medicinally to eat. So you can taste and sample about a dozen different seaweeds along the way. I found it absolutely fascinating. As you're heading up island towards a couple of the other locations, this is a must stop at. It's called Marydale Cider and Distillery, and it's located in the heart of the Cowichan Valley. It's a wonderful place. It's open all year round. So it's these gorgeous orchards that you can walk through. Now, I was there about 3 weeks ago, and the apples were just coming off the trees. They use the apples that they grow there in all of their ciders, and they also do crafted spirits like gin, vodka, and brandy. The ciders, they use undiluted apples, apple juice from there, and it has this wonderful little restaurant where you can go in, have a flight of ciders, like a tasting of ciders, and it's a wonderful restaurant. They have the best chicken pot pie in the entire world. So if you have a chance to make it to Marydale, well worth it. There are over 32 wineries on Vancouver Island. I've got a couple of them. I think I only have one in here today. This is absolutely one of my favorite, is between Victoria and Nanaimo and Parksville. It's called the Blue Grouse Winery. Again, you should make an appointment before you go here, but you can do a fabulous wine tasting. What's unique about Blue Grouse is that the stewardship that they focus on is they want to leave everything better than they found it. So there's 65 acres of land here, beautiful views. You can come in, have a glass of wine, buy a bottle or two of wine, really quite moderately priced, anywhere from about $19 to $25 a bottle. And they are beautiful wines. I like white and red, but I do think the island produces some of the best whites in Canada. They are just beautiful. And here you can have a charcuterie board while you're having a glass of wine. They've really got COVID protocol down, so there's social distancing going on. I felt very safe at this particular winery. As you drive along, now, if you've got a car rental here, this is a great place to stop along the way on the island. Duncan is it actually has the most, I think it's got the most outdoor totem poles anywhere in the world. I believe there's about 43 totem poles here. You can do a walking tour, or you can do a drive by on your own. I highly recommend signing up for the free walking tour, because each one of these totem poles tells the story of a local Indigenous family. And as you go through the tour, you actually learn about each of the families. And by the time you're done the tour, you can actually look at the totem pole and you can kind of understand the history of each family. And there's a really strong focus on Indigenous culture here. 1 in 3 visitors to Canada are looking for an Indigenous experience, and Vancouver Island is great for that. There's some amazing First Nations galleries and artwork on the island as well. This is my favorite spot on the entire island. It's in the Westholme Valley. It's called Westholme Tea Farm. And this lovely couple, they are European. They actually came over to Canada about 10 years ago, and they built this tea farm themselves, and they actually planted their own tea. Now, they do have the tea that they have grown that they do sell, and they have one called Cowichan Breakfast that is fantastic. But they also import over 100 organic teas from around the world. They take those teas and they make blends out of them. So you can go inside. They have a wonderful little potbelly stove. They no longer are having tea experiences where you sit down and drink the tea, but you can purchase it. And they are tea experts. So when you go in there and you say you want red rose tea, they're like, no, you can't have red rose tea. They'll take you through the experience of choosing something really unique to your personality. And what's really neat about this particular tea farm is that it's also an art gallery. So Margit on the left in the photo, she does slab ceramic pottery. So when you come inside, it's like a little gallery filled with this pottery, and you can purchase these teas. And when you drink them out of the ceramic pottery, it really enhances the tea experience. Now, if you've ever been to Vietnam, the feeling I get here when I arrive here on a Sunday morning and the mist is coming off the meadow, it really feels like Vietnam. And you can walk through and see all the tea that they have grown themselves. It's a really special experience. And if you're on a long stay on the island, you can, if you don't have a car for the entire duration, you can rent a car for a day or two and do these places as you explore the island. Chemainus is another great stop along the way. Chemainus is a little town. It used to be a logging town, but now it's known as the city of Murals. You can come here and you can walk through Chemainus, which I highly recommend. Again, there are walking tours just like there are in Duncan. And there's over 53 murals on the sides of the buildings. And each of the murals tells a story from the past, the history. This one is focused on Indigenous culture again, and it is really fascinating. I've been to Chemainus, I think this summer, about 4 or 5 times. I just can't get enough of it. And there's some fabulous little restaurants. During the summertime, they also have incredible theater productions in Chemainus. A little bit further north is a best kept secret on the island. This is really close to Parksville. It's called Morning Star Farm, and most people don't even know this place exists. It's only about a 5 to 10 minute drive outside of Parksville. It's a little farm, and it is completely run by robots. So you can walk in and there's all these cows, and the cows, they get to choose. They get to decide when it's time to be milked. And when they're ready to be milked, they walk into a little building where they are mechanically milked at their choice. They come back out. There are these wonderful brushes where they get facial massages. It's a really neat thing. A little robot comes and brings their food. It cleans up behind them. And then you can go into this lovely little gift shop where you can buy some of the best cheeses on the island. Little Qualicum Cheeseworks, they actually sell out of this location. If you like blue cheese, and I know most people don't, but I love it. It is the best blue cheese I've ever had. So you need to get yourself some of this blue cheese with a nice slice of Granny Smith apple and a port, and I'm telling you, it's absolutely the best. So it's really close by. Now, Coombs Old Country Market is a fabulous, you could spend a few hours here easily. And again, this one is probably about 15 minutes outside of Parksville. It's world famous because of the goats on the roof. So you can actually see goats living up on the roof. And this market is really large. They're doing it, it's difficult to do social distancing because it's so full of so many products, but it's a world international market. So when you walk through, they've imported things from all over the place, different foods. So if you're looking for ethnic foods, it's incredible. My husband is Ecuadorian, and there's a special spice that they can only get in Ecuador. And I happened to be walking through here a couple of weeks ago, and I actually found this spice in Coombs Market, which was just amazing. Fabulous restaurants, one of the best donut shops and ice cream places you can possibly imagine. And again, really accessible and close. So you can go here and spend easily a few hours. There's some wonderful displays here as well. Let's see how we're doing for time here. Oh, we're getting close. Perfect. I threw this slide in because when you're on the island, if you're doing a long stay, it's going to feel like you almost live here on the island. And this is just a slide. This is actually my slide. That's my photograph, because there's a bunch of stuff on the island that you can do that doesn't cost anything. One of my favorite things to do is to go digging for clams. And this photograph is actually a photo of the clams that I was digging just a few weeks ago. And I did so again this last weekend. So you can go down to the beach in Nanoose, you can dig for clams, you can go crabbing, and there's incredible hiking all over the island. So like I said before, you can spend time outside all year round. I like to always include my favorite recipe from Vancouver Island, which is actually my own recipe, the best maple salmon ever. If you want to take a photograph of this, great. If not, that's okay. And if you want the recipe, just let Randy and his team know, because I can send this out to you. It has 4 ingredients, and I'm telling you, if you have company coming, this is absolutely the best salmon recipe ever. So we've got, yeah, just one more. Again, seafood. The island is really about fresh seafood. There's never been a better time than to shop local. I have been traveling extensively the last 6 weeks throughout Canada. I was telling Randy, I've been on about 14 commercial flights, so I felt very safe. If you're not feeling comfortable flying, you can, of course, drive from Alberta to BC, but really, I felt very, very comfortable flying, and I had no issue with that at all. So I will, Randy, you want me to unshare my screen? Okay, there we go. Perfect. And if anyone,
excellent. Thank you, Darcy. That was fantastic. You know, I've been to the island myself, you know, quite a few times, and seen a lot of those sites that you mentioned, but you definitely gave me something to think about, some hidden finds in there. And those clams look delicious. I just don't know, as an Alberta boy, if I could, you know, properly clean them and prepare them like someone who lives on the island, but definitely looked good. I don't see that we don't have any questions in the chat. If you do have any questions, please just type them in, or we have a pretty small group, so you can also just unmute yourself as well. If you're interested in getting away this winter to BC or somewhere else, please reach out to your consultant and they can help you arrange that perfect trip. And although international travel is currently paused, it is time to start thinking about where you want to go for later in 2021 and 2022. Suppliers have very flexible booking policies to give us peace of mind. And we are already seeing some shortage of space just because of the high demand for people rebooking their postponed trips. There is one question here, and this comes from Diane. Is the Nanaimo Bar Tour year-round?
You know what? I just saw that question pop up, and I don't know the answer to that question. I think it is, but I can find out and let you know, Randy, so you can let your guests know. So let me just make a note of that.
Oh, perfect. Oh, and one thing you forgot to mention was the farmers market in Duncan. They have some amazing homemade products there that I've experienced. I think that's all the questions right now. So thank you everybody for joining us. We definitely appreciate your time, your past travels with us. Have a great day, and we look forward to sending you away in the very near future.
Thanks,
Enjoy.
everybody.